Well, the man behind the budget cover joins us now. Finance Minister Bill Morneau is here in the foyer with me. Welcome to the show, Minister. Nice to have you. You got a lot of programs, a lot of initiatives, the whole idea of assisting women into the workforce. And I guess we discussed this a little earlier in the last segment. You give women the access to jobs, but they don't have affordable daycare. How do you cure that problem? You need more spaces, you need it more affordable.
I think we need to think about what we're trying to achieve over the short term and the long term. We've pretty clearly come forward with initiatives that have made an enormous difference on women's situation and on families. The Canada Child Benefit. Just to be clear, for the average single woman with children who's earning under $60,000, they have about $9,000 in annual benefits. So you take that, and then you take what we did last year with $7.5 billion into childcare over 11 years. You see that we're making an enormous difference. What we've said this year is we need to go a step further. We've said, let's make sure that the burden of taking care of children is shared more equally between families. Putting in place the parental leave benefit is a really important impact. So we're just saying that an economy works if everyone has access to work opportunities, if everyone reaches their maximum potential. And that's what we're trying to achieve for women, because we know that what that's going to drive is a strong economy for all Canadians.
You were asked a lot of this in your news conference in the lockup about, we've got these NAFTA talks. They're a little wobbly on the rails, if not going off the rails. And yet I guess you can't really build anything into a budget that says we're anticipating the end of NAFTA. But is there a cushion? Is there protection in here to protect the soundness of this budget if NAFTA talks fail?
Well, what's the best cushion, Don? I mean, the best cushion is being in a good economic situation. What we've clearly shown is investing in Canadians results in a good economy. We had faith that Canadians would make those investments in their families. Here we are with the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years, highest growth rate among the G7 countries. That is where we start for negotiations around NAFTA. So we're in a position where we're not just going to take any deal. We're going to make sure that the deal gets better. That's our approach. Continue to invest in Canadians because that's going to pay off. And that's clearly where we're at right now.
Might you need a tax rate adjustment if the U.S. rate does kick in? Still in the proposed stage, hasn't passed yet. But if that kicks in and we find ourselves in an uncompetitive situation?
Well, rather than go against hypotheticals, let's think about where we're really at. We have a very competitive situation here in Canada right now. Our economy is growing faster than other economies in the G7. We have the lowest unemployment rate, as I said, in 40 years. So that's a strong position to consider what to do. The way that you do things is take a look very carefully at if there are changes in the competitive environment, let's consider what those changes are and make sure we stay competitive. We're committed to doing that, but we're certainly going to make sure that we see all the regulations before we actually come to those conclusions and continue with this pretty good competitive situation. I'll just remind you, our small business tax rates are the lowest in the G7 countries. They're still the lowest. Our big business tax rates, we're at about 27%. The U.S. is at about 26%. So we're very close there. We're going to continue to be competitive. It's incumbent on us to do our homework to get there.
If necessary, in other words.
What I said is we're going to make sure that we remain competitive because we know it's important.
Fair enough. I do want to talk, because the last couple of budgets you've had have talked a lot about infrastructure spending, and we note that you're pushing some into the future a little more than you initially anticipated. Is that because you can't get it out the door fast enough? Is that because cities and provinces aren't ready to take it? Is that what's holding the hold up?
This is really an accounting issue. So the way that you look at it is the federal government pays for the infrastructure bills when the receipts come due. So we've got projects that are going on. We're moving forward on projects across the country, in Calgary and Montreal,
You are
Toronto.
pushing some into the future,
Well,
though.
some of the receipts haven't come due yet.
Okay.
So those projects are starting, those receipts will come due. But we're committed. Let's remember what we're doing. We're making a $180 billion investment in infrastructure over a dozen years to help people have better lives. That's our focus.
Cannabis taxation, you've got it coming in at about $100 million next year, more than doubles in the next 5 years. Are you banking on increased taxation or increased consumption?
We really don't even look at cannabis that way. What we're really trying to do is say, we've got among the highest use of cannabis in the world among our youth, so let's regulate it so it's harder for young people to get. We've got the black market, feeding criminals, so we want to make sure that our taxation is such that it's not so high so that we can get rid of the black market. Those are our objectives. So the tax revenues are fairly modest, and we're plowing a lot of that money back into education because we know that we want to educate people on the dangers of consuming things without considering the consequences.
You've got a very big teaser in the budget, and that is with Eric Hoskins, the Ontario Health Minister, being appointed to sort of look at this. And I know your background is certainly in pharmacare plans. Is a national pharmacare plan on the horizon, and could it be in place before the writ drops in 2019?
We know this is important. That's why we've put it there. We realize, and I realize more than most, that pharmacare in this country is a challenge because some people get it through their employer, some people get it because they're getting it from the province if they're older, some people don't have access. So we need to do the research. Dr. Eric Hoskins has been put as a lead of this committee to make sure that we think about how we can ensure that all Canadians have access to pharmaceutical care. It's an integral part of our healthcare system. We need to get it right, and we will.
All right, last question, only because I joked with Lisa LaFlamme, I said I'd ask you. The last budget cover was about 200 grand. I could have taken this picture with my iPhone. How much did you spend for this one?
Well, how much is a good amount to spend on a budget cover in your estimation?
I don't know. That picture, I don't know. How much does it cost to bind this one? $5,000
well,
bucks?
That was $600.
$600 total?
$600.
Total.
So that's
All
where
right.
you see it.
A good deal. Okay. Made up for last year, Bill Morneau. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.